Organizers said some 8 million people showed up to the third nationwide No Kings protest over the weekend. Demonstrators at thousands of events rallied against the war in Iran, immigration enforcement, and what they see as executive overreach by the Trump administration. Judy Woodruff went to the protest in Minnesota to explore how No Kings fits into America's long history of protest. It's for her series, America at a Crossroads.
It was a rally with big names and an even bigger crowd.
Citizens stood for justice.
Some 100,000 people marched to the state capitol in St. Paul on Saturday, dressed like kings and founding fathers, carrying signs and speaking against an administration they called tyrannical.
He's a dictator. He's an authoritarian. What else can I say?
They're destroying our democracy and choosing to do whatever they want without any repercussions.
Organizers picked Minnesota as the flagship No Kings protest following the Trump administration's sweeping immigration crackdown here. For months, federal agents repeatedly clashed with residents, made thousands of arrests, and killed 2 U.S. citizens. 34-year-old Miguel Hernandez, whose parents are from Mexico, served as a marshal during the protest.
A lot of people are coming together, spreading all these ideas that yes, we should stand up against tyrants, but we should make better communities.
Hernandez and his family own 2 restaurants in the Twin Cities, and even though Operation Metro Surge has technically ended, he says both residents and businesses continue to struggle.
Some of these restaurants lost 80% of their clientele for 4 months. Some of their staff members aren't coming back, too. To see that bloodshed on the streets that I call home, the streets that I drive past every day, that's a great trauma a lot of us felt here.
But Hernandez says No Kings is about more than what's happened in Minnesota.
I'd love for more folks to say, in the face of authoritarianism, yeah, you might risk something, but at the end of the day, you'll be helping someone. Step out of your comfort level and push back on something that will ultimately get worse if we do not.
What these moments call for are citizen action. That's the thing that works, not the traditional story of the 3 branches of government, one branch checking another.
Corey Brettschneider is a political scientist at Brown University. His 2024 book, The Presidents and the People, tells the story of 5 presidents who pushed the boundaries of executive power and the citizens who pushed back.
The sort of myth that we often tell that all the framers were believers in democracy is not true. There really was an authoritarian current, an understanding of the Constitution from very early on.
His first example is John Adams, who used the Sedition Act of 1798 to prosecute members of the press who criticized him.
Adams thought the word republic was compatible, actually, with monarchy. The newspaper editors who fight back against Adams really used that moment in order to turn the election of 1800 into, at least in part, a referendum on the idea of, is there a right to dissent?
Adams lost that election to Thomas Jefferson. Over the years, many presidents have been depicted as kings, including Abraham Lincoln, who during the Civil War suspended habeas corpus, a person's right to challenge their own detention. Franklin Delano Roosevelt was also labeled a king for, among other things, serving 4 terms as president and attempting to pack the Supreme Court. But Brettschneider says authoritarian only accurately applies to a much smaller group.
Even if numerically it's far from a majority, you really only need 1 to succeed. In those instances, we largely did fight back. We did recover, but that's not a guarantee of the future. There's no law of political science that says citizens defending the Constitution from an authoritarian president will win out.
I better be out to fight for what I believe and what, the founders of America stood for over 200 years.
I've been thinking a lot about the men and women in 1776 who announced to the world that they would no longer be ruled by the King of England. Today, in 2026, our message is exactly the same. No more kings.
Do you think of it in that vein, or No.
I really don't. I think that the Democratic Party has a platform that consists almost exclusively of hating Donald Trump.
John Hinderaker leads the Center of the American Experiment, a conservative think tank in the Twin Cities.
These people are election deniers. They have never accepted the fact that Donald Trump won the 2024 election. He was selected by the American people to be the president. He's entitled to act as the president. Every single thing he does, they automatically oppose, and the resistance movement started before he was even inaugurated. They really know Trump is not a dictator, Trump is not a king. It's perfectly safe to go out there and call Trump all the horrible names you want to call him, because he is not, in fact, the dictator.
Oh, who's this dirt squad?
Callie Proctor is a mom and writer in Minneapolis. She voted for President Trump in 2024.
We have a president who still is held accountable by things like elections, by things like courts, by things like other branches of the government, and systems that are still working and operating.
Proctor says she saw government overreach while President Biden was in office, especially around COVID restrictions.
Do you think what happened during the Biden administration is equivalent to what we're seeing now?
I do, and I know that a lot of people do as well, but I think that if you talked with people who are at the No Kings rally, say, why are you here? I think that it would be, ironically, very similar to my own concerns.
Kara Schultz is a libertarian who serves on the city council in the Twin Cities suburb of Burnsville. Around 2009, Schultz attended Tea Party protests against government spending and President Obama's health care policies. And this year, she was on the front lines as Minnesotans confronted federal agents.
We had armed masked men coming into our neighborhoods and lobbing tear gas. But that is what government power looks like. It's just how in your face it's going to be or not. We have seen this over and over and over through our country's history, but most of the time, most of us are able to turn away. And we're at a point where it is so pervasive in our communities that we can't turn away.
Still, Schultz has not participated in No Kings protests.
A lot of the messaging is very Trump-specific, as if he is only the problem, and if he's replaced with someone else, the problem goes away.
She says her biggest concern is that authoritarianism has become normalized. According to preliminary results from a 2025 survey, about a third of U.S. adults believe having a strong leader for America is more important than having a democracy. But during Saturday's protests, at least, that idea was nowhere to be found. It's a No Kings rally. What does that say to you?
Democracy. That's what this country was founded on, and I love this country. I don't want to see that go away.
There's been a lot of people who've done this in the past, and it's kept America from tilting too far in a direction of authoritarian government, and I think it should always be that way. Our government should listen to the people.
Thank you, Minnesota!
For the PBS News Hour, I'm Judy Woodruff in St. Paul, Minnesota.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now, or even better, start a monthly contribution today.